voting started early. It's a long weekend for many of you guys and expect it to take a while. Still a few people with ballots. I can call right now for anyone that has ballots to make sure they're turned in.
Turn it out?
You get room service?
Oh, there's more back there.
Okay, everyone that has a ballot? Any more ballots? Everyone got their ballots filled out okay?
You don't have to turn it in.
We have John Idens from Neighborhood Services. Juan Garcia.
Be pretty chill with this.
We're going to be counting the ballots.
No one's even, people don't even know what they're voting on. It hasn't been discussed yet.
Well, we discussed it like in about 4 or 5 meetings.
But that is, it's supposed to be for the people that are
Filled out their
voting.
ballots okay?
Did you hear the man back there? You said people don't understand yet because they haven't been told what is the ballot about.
The discussion on the bylaws has been the topic of our neighborhood conversations and meetings for over a year. We've discussed them quite thoroughly. There's been lots of information out there. We've been available to answer questions on them. This meeting was to vote, as agreed at our last meeting, on the 2 proposals that were put forth that we had consensus on last meeting.
Point of order, President. First of all, this meeting was advertised for 6 o'clock. Since last month, it was 6 o'clock. Our meetings have always been 6 o'clock. All of a sudden today, you decided to start the meeting and the balloting at 5:30. So those who were coming here thinking the meeting would start at 5:30, like myself, were a little surprised to see the balloting had already begun. And I'd like you to explain why this meeting that had been scheduled for 6 o'clock now started at 5:30.
Actually, the meeting was just called to order shortly after 6. The voting has been open since 5:30.
Since when was that decided?
As was announced.
When was that?
No, it wasn't,
Because
because a lot of these people are now on your listserv.
Yeah, that's
It's never announced. Improper
Okay,
notification.
you know, we can make this as contentious as you want.
We're just starting.
Anyone
We're just starting.
that arrived at 6 o'clock had ample time to receive a ballot. We're at 6:20 now. Do we have anyone else waiting?
Well, we do want an answer because a lot of these people were not on listserv.
So our voting is closed. We're going to count the ballots.
Why is the voting closed?
Because
Who
we have
decided the voting was going to close at
I
this
just asked if
time?
all of our ballots were in.
You decide when the voting starts, you decide when it ends, right? So you just decided right now the voting is ending.
I asked if all the ballots were turned in.
What if
There still might be people coming.
We just looked to see if there was.
We can't
just look. People on the streets.
It was announced that the voting would be the first thing on the agenda. It's posted on the agenda.
It started before the first meeting. You started at 5:30. Who knows who's in the ballot
To
then?
give, how long has it taken us to do it? So we had ample time. John?
By if we're operating under Robert's Rules of Order, the process is that you do it during the meeting, you open up a question for discussion before you have a vote. That's just the way it's done. I don't have a problem with some of the balloting starting before the meeting. If it's convenient and there's a lot of people, I don't have a problem with people who have already made up their minds having a ballot and being able to vote ahead of time. But to close the polls, if somebody is expecting the meeting at 6 and is just now trying to arrive,
Well, it's
Then-
6:20.
so.
What time does the meeting end?
I mean, if it's the first item on the agenda, you haven't started the agenda, so how can the vote already be over?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I didn't even hear a meeting
even get called to order.
Don't you want to entertain a discussion?
This was announced, the procedure of the vote was announced at our last neighborhood
But
meeting.
not generally
that
to
it
the
would be
entire
first,
neighborhood.
So that we could have third-party impartial people helping us
You
to,
call the city third party and impartial? The city who are fighting are counting our ballots, and you say that's third party impartial. The city of Tucson employees.
Yes, I did.
Interesting,
um,
interesting.
the voting was starting early so that there was ample time for people to get their ballots,
So
and we would be
there-
able to get the ballots counted during our meeting.
So you're saying that the whole problem is because they can't stay later?
No,
So what's the problem with like holding the polls open and entertaining a discussion before closing the polls and allowing the vote to happen
problem
after
with
that?
entertaining the discussion, John, is the discussion has been going on now for over a year. At some point, you have to say, the information's out there, it's been made clear, we're voting. And that's what the consensus was at our last meeting.
Most of these people weren't even a part of the discussion, and they're here and they voted on it.
Well,
They weren't even a part of the discussion.
we've done.
This is another fixed vote, another
People are
phony
here to
vote.
discuss this now. My neighbors are here to discuss this now, and you don't want to discuss it.
I'd like to, please help.
Lulu, did you get a ballot?
Point of order. Casey?
Patrick out of here.
Point of order.
You want me escorted out by police?
All of us are going to
He goes, we all go too.
Here's the other thing. Ask how many of these people are in your listserv. How many of these got proper notice? Because a lot of these people were not on your listserv. How many of them have computers to receive this kind of mail?
Point of order, Casey.
I'm going to have to, at this point,
Answer a question.
This person didn't get a ballot, she came late.
I'm gonna have to call some order to this meeting, okay? We had a vote, the vote was advertised, there are a lot of issues in this neighborhood. If the majority of people are just out to make sure that no progress is done in this neighborhood and no vote happens.
Point of order, Casey.
No.
Steve.
Point of order, Casey. Yeah, I'd like to take the floor. Excuse me.
Hold on.
You're correct when you say that the ballot proposition itself and the contents of it were discussed for many months over time. But that really shouldn't be used as justification to not allow a discussion before the vote. Because the problem is, a lot of folks who care about the election, who haven't been at the meetings, are not familiar with the background of the ballot. And so for them to be able to make an informed choice, a discussion needs to happen before the vote. And that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Secondly,
I'm
secondly, I'm not through.
The discussion did happen at our last monthly
No.
meeting. The whole meeting
No.
was devoted to the discussion.
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying people that came, there are people who came tonight who have not been at any of those meetings. And so for transparency and purposes of them understanding what they're voting on, making an informed choice, a discussion should have happened beforehand. Secondly, in terms of impartiality out there, the people at the desk were telling citizens when they came up to enroll that there was only one vote per household.
Right.
Yes, I
Which is,
know that.
you are aware of it because you heard me tell the police that.
I told you.
She told you, so don't tell her or any of us that you weren't aware of it. So there was partiality because people from families were told only one member of a household could vote. So how many families were told that and only got one member to vote and everybody else in the household didn't get to vote? That is
I didn't bring
wrong.
my brother.
Who was
I didn't
told,
bring my brother, he lives with me.
no, who was told that and
Bunny, get up.
I was
who
told that.
was declining
I
to
was
vote?
told that. I brought 4 people with me, and
And
I
you
was.
didn't receive?
I'm sorry, I'm not finished.
I brought 4 people with me, and then 2 people at the desk told me only 1 vote per household.
Okay.
And I told them, that's incorrect, and then
Right.
that's when I pulled you aside, and you confirmed, yes, that is incorrect.
Right.
So the people who are registering us are not properly informed on the rules,
Right.
and I think that's pretty important for this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that.
So,
We've done our best.
so who's regulating them, and how many
So-
people got turned away?
Right.
You know,
We'll never know.
Exactly.
did anyone get turned away? So,
They wouldn't say, they're already home.
One gentleman did, he went home to get his electric bill, and you know him, you know he lives here, but you wouldn't acknowledge him.
You worked with him, planting trees, and you still didn't allow him a vote. It's provisional, you said.
And you know him.
You know him, you planted trees with him, you know where he lives, and you
Wow.
refused to allow
wanna
him to
be our
give him a
president?
regular ballot. Why?
the reason
Honesty.
the ID was requested was because of all allegations that have come about of the last election. That's the only
For
reason.
people you've
And
never seen
because of
with
those
allegations.
allegations and because of the feelings of the last election is what's made all this possible. Plus this just whole atmosphere of contention.
Let's vote a new
So-
election.
Contentions is
So,
you.
so is the, it just isn't productive. Is what I'm hearing is that the majority of the people here do not want to vote, count this vote?
That's not what.
Only if they lose.
So how do we get results from a vote if we don't get our ballots in?
Can I speak to that?
Well, first you don't start counting votes before the meeting starts.
Yes.
That would be a good
Right.
start.
Exactly. All right, so, everybody knows that this is like a very contentious issue. And even though you say that there's been discussion on it in the past, a lot of people have come here wanting to say something. Everybody here, I think, wants the vote tonight. Nobody's saying don't vote, or don't have this decided tonight. What people are saying is that we want it to be done by procedure. If it's not done with the proper procedure, then any vote that, whatever the result is, it's gonna be contestable, and this is gonna drag on even longer, because people will say you didn't follow the proper procedure. You know, if we're supposed to, I realize you're in a hurry to get it done, but really the proper way to do it is to have a discussion. Now, I realize a lot of people have something they wanna say. Just a straw poll though, because I have a feeling there aren't very many undecided people in this room, okay? If you are, is it worth having the discussion if, like, everybody's already made up their minds, I guess is what I'm saying.
He
So,
didn't know,
okay.
it was the wording on the ballot that was confusing to
Okay.
him, and he voted for the wrong thing. And he didn't realize that until afterwards.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's that.
And
Well,
there's
I
some of
mean,
this ballot,
yeah, I
we
don't
do
know.
have Don Ijams, we had him here for this.
I don't know, okay, well then, yeah, so then you
And it's
should,
because it wasn't discussed beforehand, that as the addendum or whatnot, it said it was gonna be 5 minutes of discussion, just to preface things. So I assumed that was gonna be the case, but then there was this rush to go ahead and turn in ballots. And that is very confusing for a lot of us. My family's been in the barrio for over 50 years, 60 years, and I'm just, trying to facilitate that vote for my family who can't be here.
I
And
just
I
moved
just
back
feel like
here.
that should
I
be
just
talked.
moved back here. 70 years ago, my grandfather built my house.
So you don't know where
I
the
don't know
vote
what's
was
going
voted?
on.
Well, that's exactly. I don't understand it. And so
The
that's why
wording-
5
More the
minutes.
reason we need a discussion.
Correct.
And if we would have just discussed it at the beginning, we wouldn't have wasted all this time.
It would have been productive.
It would have been done already.
It would have been
It would have been done.
But that point is taken, I do want to reiterate that we have had a lot of discussions that have been made public knowledge. I realize canvassers went out and got everyone really motivated, which I'm, happy. I wish that we could harness this energy to get something positive done in the neighborhood. But it does not diminish the fact.
You stand up there and
it does
insult
not-
all these
it
people
does
to
not
their
diminish-
face.
It does not diminish the fact that there has been lots and ample discussion on the bylaws.
But Casey,
So why do you keep going around? So
Casey.
people are dismissed because of that?
Casey,
can't talk. She's
I wanna make a motion.
She's not listening. She's not
Here's
listening.
the thing, a lot, you keep on saying notification was sent out because you have a listserv. I wanna know how many people in this room have computers that are in your listserv. Raise your hand if you don't have a computer.
You don't have one.
If you do not have
Point taken, Margaret. It wasn't advertised like you keep on saying, it was advertised, it was advertised, it was advertised. No, it
To the
wasn't.
best of the ability, and it was advertised more than anything's
And
been
then this
advertised
5
for
o'clock
some
thing,
time.
in our
So-
last meeting, you did not say
of
that
order,
voting for
Margaret.
the 5:30 was going to be.
Why don't we
No,
vote
you're
by show of
dismissing me
hands
like you
instead of
dismiss
ballot?
all these other
Margaret.
people because you don't think
At this
that
point,
anybody has
at
anything
this
to
point,
say.
Joe has suggested, since this is such a personal attack, Joe has suggested.
What, a
that
personal
the
attack?
chair
Yes.
is
I
not-
move. I move.
Excuse
So I'm turning over the chair to Joe, thank you, Joe.
Okay, let's follow the agenda.
No, I want to make a motion that we re-vote.
Yeah.
I would like to-
Second motion. Second motion.
After discussion.
No, let's do it.
Let's follow the agenda. Let's follow the discussion.
Motion to revote.
Second on the floor.
We have 2 residents here who have lived in the neighborhood for 20 years. They just got here and they just got off work, would like to vote. Are they allowed to vote?
And Lulu
It's
owns
gonna
a
be
business and
provisional.
she doesn't have a
Will-
ballot.
Will their vote count? Yes, it will? Okay.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's follow the agenda. I understand that there are motions, but the motions are out of order. The motions are out of order.
A point of order, Joe, if you could explain to me why the Tucson police are telling our members that we can't pass out information.
My understanding that there was complaints from both sides about people campaigning in this room. And therefore,
So our First Amendment rights are null and void.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that the issue was that some people were going to make it a point of order that people were campaigning in the room, and therefore,
Is that illegal?
Yeah, at the polling place it is, yes.
This is not a voting place. This is a neighborhood meeting.
however.
See, people are still getting here.
Okay.
People that have lived here longer than every one of you.
I will ask for a brief discussion, and I will ask that if there are any members that still wish to vote, they may vote.
Okay.
Okay? So let's move on. Pardon me?
What?
Who's talking?
Can you repeat what you said, that it's something and something else?
Oh, we're gonna have a brief discussion. After the discussion, I will ask if there's anyone who still needs to vote, they will be allowed to vote. Okay? Let's move on. Okay. Very briefly, does anyone have any, let's start the discussion by asking, does anyone have any questions about the ballot?
I have a question. We were notified by the city, and I'm hoping that someone from the city attorney's office is here to explain this. We were notified by Ms. Ogata, that if we voted so that only residents would vote, the city would rip us from the registry, we would not get the one big free mailing we get a year, and they would not cooperate with this neighborhood. So I would like to have an explanation from someone from the city, preferably the city attorney's office, that can explain why our neighborhood should be punished
We have a person
because we
here.
want residents to
We have a
vote.
person here.
Great.
Ms. Root, would you like to speak on that?
And I've got one more comment before Rebecca speaks.
Okay, one comment, real quickly.
Okay, and I also spoke to the assistant city manager, Albert Elias, the other day, and I asked him personally, and I discussed this. If we would take the businesses would still be part of the association, but no voting rights. Would the city strip us, as Ms. Carlson says, from being a neighborhood association? And he said no, that they are just guidelines. So if we choose not to have the businesses in our association, but as members without any voting rights, that is fine too. That there is, I asked him, and he's the assistant city manager, I asked him, are there any regulations, are there anything in the laws, any of the statutes, any of the other stuff that shows that? And he said, no. What we put out is guidelines.
Let Ms. Root respond to that.
So thank you, and it's nice to be back with this neighborhood. I worked a lot with you years and years ago on Cambio Grande. I'm Rebecca Rube. I'm a principal planner in the Office of Integrated Planning, which is where the city's neighborhood resources is now located. The Office of Integrated Planning was formed in November of 2013 after the voters ratified Plan Tucson. It's under the city manager's office. And I'm going to read what I have because I think it's very important and I don't want to get off message by being extemporaneous. But we are not stripping the rights, and I want to put that at the beginning.
Why were we threatened by that?
I was unfortunately on vacation, but I think that was I think Irene was trying, she got something from the attorney's office, and I think
What
it
did you get
was...
from the attorney's office? Because I got stuff from the attorney's office that the exact opposite.
Okay, well then, and that happens too. So let me go ahead and tell you what we are saying at this point, but I'm going to read it because I don't want to go off message. I've thought a lot about this. I've had the attorneys look at this so that hopefully we're all on the same page. I do understand your frustration. We get frustrated with some of these issues too that don't seem as clear as they might be.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm more than just frustrated because that threat to our people, to the Barrio Hollywood, could have an effect on how people voted at 5:30. If that threat was made saying the city's going to not cooperate with weed and seed or with pickups or whatever, if we do the bylaw change that I'm proposing, it could have a direct effect on how people voted.
They did.
It did. I know 3 people that stayed home because of it.
Yep.
So let me tell you where we stand now, and then we can have that, okay? So OIP is planning to recommend to the mayor and council that a public process be initiated to refine the guidelines pertaining to neighborhood associations. These guidelines were adopted by the mayor and council in 1992, and there are some topics such as those of your neighborhood that you've encountered regarding membership that we believe would benefit from clarification. Because we've obviously seen over the years some different interpretations, different innuendo, and so we really think, and that's a public process. Any of you will create a public process and let everybody know what that is so you can weigh in on that. For example, the legislative record from the time of the council's actions in approving the guidelines shows that the intent was that neighborhood associations would be as inclusive as possible and not exclude any particular group. And I know that one example of this is found in the sample bylaws that were approved, under which the association members includes residents, property owners, or businesses, and which provide that a voting member would include a household or a business. However, other parts of the record suggest that the mayor and council were primarily concerned with ensuring that residents would enjoy voting rights as opposed to only property owners. In any event, our office needs to take some time to review the structures of the existing registered neighborhood associations and examine what changes to the registration guidelines might make sense going forward. In the interim, our office will continue to coordinate with the attorney's office to review proposed bylaws and bylaw revisions. And we always do that. We don't monitor, your job is to run yourself after your bylaws are in place, but we do that to ensure there's no improper discrimination. That would be discrimination based on race or ethnicity or gender or age, or require payment that would make you like an HOA or something, a homeowners association.
Like membership based on property.
Which the city could not condone and would be grounds for the city to withdraw from providing services for a neighborhood association. But with respect to bylaw changes relating to the voting rights of businesses, the office may share comments with the neighborhood association for its consideration, but will continue for the time being to provide support to the neighborhood association. In the case of the proposed Barrio Hollywood proposed optional bylaw revisions, the Office of Integrated Planning and the Attorney's Office have reviewed them and do not find either to be discriminatory in a manner that would cause the neighborhood association to be deregistered, but do find that the option that defines membership as including residents, property owners, or business owners within the boundaries of the neighborhood more consistent with the approved guidelines and sample bylaws than the option that defines membership as including just residents within the boundaries. However, the city will continue to provide services to the neighborhood association regardless of which option receives the majority of votes. If in the future any changes are made to the registration guidelines, then neighborhood associations, including Barrio Hollywood, will be given an opportunity to comply with those revisions in order to continue to receive services as a registered neighborhood association.
Well, I do have one more comment, Rebecca, and I want everybody here to know that these are residents of the neighborhood, okay? At 5 o'clock, the way that Scott and I and a lot of other neighbors here look at it, at 5 o'clock, the businesses, with the exception of Lulu and Mariscos Chihuahua, who are very active in our community, okay? They just make money off of us. They don't care, and by 5 o'clock, they leave. This is not their neighborhood. They should not dictate.
You have that option too. You have that option.
Yes.
I wanted to thank Rebecca. I think what she's laid out is the case, and I think the city has a better overview and realizes that there's an underlying set of contradictions in the language of the policies that evolved over time. I happened to accidentally run into the city attorney on Wednesday at the supermarket and had this same conversation. And he was like, he says, oh, we found this document that said this and this document that said that, and looks like we have some house cleaning to do. And so it's correct that the city prefers, in the name of inclusiveness, property owners, residents, and businesses. But inclusiveness and involving businesses does not necessarily mean voting rights. So you can have them as members because you want their input, but not allow voting like residents do, and that would not be considered discrimination. So we're all safe in that, because after all, a guy could own 6 donut shops and he could live in Oro Valley. The city's not going to let him vote in city elections. So, same for us. They might have a business here, but that doesn't mean they should be able to vote in our elections. It's simple.
That we do have results. Is there anyone that would like to vote before we have a discussion, because we can learn the results in 5 minutes? Anyone who has not cast a ballot?
Can we have a show of form? Someone's getting it backwards.
Huh?
To vote on the ballot?
I feel like you're still kind of doing backwards.
Understood. Now, is there any further discussion? We've already heard some arguments.
We have one resident who just went across the street to get his ID.
And here's the other thing, Joe, okay? Casey was there when they're counting the ballots, the city people, but see, she's on one side, and she never asked any of us that with the opposite side to stand there and watch them count the votes either, which I think is improper.
Does anyone have any other comments?
She's handing out the ballots instead of.
No transparency
Yes,
there.
my other comment is based on what the city of Tucson just said right now, what the representative just said. Our current president, Casey Carlton, was spreading misinformation in the emails based on what we just heard. She was correct, right? She was spreading misinformation to the residents. You should have been here in the room instead. You were out there. You should have been here in the room to listen to that discussion. But you don't really listen to the people that actually live here.
Mr. McKenna, please let me speak. Is the consensus that no one wants to see the results yet?
Yes.
Huh? Pardon me?
The vote should not be given out until the end of the meeting, because if somebody comes in, they still haven't voted, then their vote's not going to count.
So we will, let's.
Still open.
I motion that we postpone this meeting till next month, so you can notify the rest of the neighborhood.
Yes, because this is ridiculous.
Because this ballot is not fair.
There's been a motion.
So I motion that.
The motion is out of order, we're still.
Oh, it's always out of order when it's taken away.
We're still in
That was Pope's
discussion.
idea.
Why is the motion out of order?
Because the topic we're talking about is vote.
I'm just playing.
That was
my idea.
Okay, we're talking about discussion on the vote. Does anybody have any other comments they would like to make on the measures?
Yes.
Yes, I have one.
Yes, sir.
I actually have lived in Barrio Hollywood for most of my life, and I've been out of the country, and I just came back. So I've been coming to these meetings since I was a little boy, and I've seen the way, you know, Margaret has run it and how everything works. And it's always very nice, and people sit down and we talk about stuff before we vote. And you know, it just feels like that misinformation that came out, it really meant, I have 3 friends who were really interested in it, but they read that, and you know, the message was catered to those kind of people to just give up and not come here. And so they decided not to come. And I think it's unfair to have a vote before we discuss it, and we let everybody know the first circle is for this, the second one's for this, the third one's for this. Now go ahead and vote and let's count them. We can do that.
And that's what we're at right now. Does anyone have any questions on the ballot?
I still motion to
At least a revote.
You
already voted.
A revote.
I got a second and a third.
I wanted to explain to what each one was, 'cause I just guessed at what I was voting for.
See?
Because it didn't make sense to me.
See?
It wasn't clear.
And the way it was written, it said this is a better choice.
What?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did.
Who put that,
And
Joe?
said this is a better choice.
It's a better choice.
Should have been only 2 choices, not 3.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
confused it by 3, because I could have voted
I
for
was like,
the second 2.
Oh
But
my
you put a
God.
3rd choice on there, which is to leave it as it is.
Well,
That was part of the discussion.
Well, no, the discussion was this, if we had just put
Should be
the first
2 items,
one,
not
the
3.
second, then the contention then could have been that we were not given an option for neither.
Well, then you should
be a
just
vote.
be either or
Either
neither or vote on a change.
And Joe, I've had my hand up since
Yes,
Casey
that's
was
for now.
running the
Yes,
meeting,
for
so I'm
now.
gonna just speak out of turn because I don't get called out. The way the vote was being announced last time, if you look at the minutes, nowhere in the minutes does it say anything about the election being conducted the way it was conducted tonight. All we had talked about was having ballots, which I think is fine when you have a contentious issue and there's a, you know, it's really unclear about how the vote's gonna go and whatnot, that it's better to have something in writing. But all it says is that the 2 proposals would be on ballots. Nothing was said about the election being run like a regular campaign. And I really don't appreciate being told by a police officer that I should be passing out my position statement. Because I believe that we were coming here to this meeting to give our opinions about these proposals so that people would be informed about how they voted.
Especially since
Look at what the current bylaws say. The only 2 things that it says about amendments to the bylaws is that they'll be by majority vote and that they'll be done, that the information will be sent to members at least 1 week in advance. That's all it says about the bylaw amendment. It doesn't say anything else about what happened tonight. And yes, people will be questioning this election regardless of the results. The whole thing really stinks to high heaven.
From January, when we first got elected.
I'm looking at the ballot. I do not vote. My heart is here. I've been a resident in this neighborhood. My husband and I have worked all our life in this neighborhood. So I am going to speak to the ballot. Never in my life, I'm a member of many organizations, the Pima Industrial Development Authority, the University of Arizona campaigns and
And you
organizations.
saved our golf course, thank you.
Thank you. And never in my life have I ever seen changes, amendments to bylaws written in this manner. Usually they're written, we propose an amendment to section so-and-so of the bylaws, part 2 that read this way, we're proposing it to read this way, so that people have a clear idea exactly what the bylaws change in here. No one reading this would ever know what your proposed bylaws are. So to me, this ballot, whoever wrote it should be ashamed of themselves. You are leading people in the direction of voting for something that entirely has no clarification, no transparency, and you should be ashamed.
So how do we fix it?
We have no shame.
Are there any other comments?
Casey has no shame.
Yeah, I second the motion. I second the motion that was, the motion was
You
to
recognize me, Joe.
have a meeting on the bylaws next month, our next meeting. And I heard some groans. You know, a lot of us come to these meetings all the time. A lot of you, maybe it's your first meeting. But coming to the meetings is kind of a regular thing for some of us. I propose that we ignore these ballots, whatever and I don't know what the result is. Maybe my side won, or maybe it didn't. This is an invalid vote. It is absurd to have the city counting the ballots when the city threatened us with what we're trying to propose. When we have people that don't even show up at the meeting because they're afraid of what the city said. We need another month to talk to people, talk it out, come back, have a discussion before we take a vote. Not fix the votes like this. Is this another fix? Instead of doing this, let's have another meeting next month. All of you people who are concerned with us, come back and let's talk this out and vote. And whatever that vote is, fine, let it be.
It could not be next month, because August we take a break. So it has to be-
I motion for September. September. That guy right there nodding his head.
Hey, be quiet, an elder wants to speak, so you be quiet. You be quiet, this elder's gonna speak.
I'm not an elder, thank you, sir.
Just
I have a question though about the procedures and so forth. Is this organization, are we governed by the open meeting law?
No, it's not.
Okay, that's another question. But again, one thing I would ask of all of us, if one person can speak at a time and maybe identify themselves, not that it makes a difference, but then I know who is. Then I get to know some of the members that I don't know. I think I know a lot of people in here because I've lived here since a long time. Thank you. So, you know, just as a common courtesy, if you would identify yourselves and speak, that would really help.
Very reasonable.
What's your name, sir?
Ramon?
My name is Ray Mugaray. My name is Ramon, but people call me Ray.
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
Ramon Olivas. I'm Ramon Olivas. I used to be the chair of Barrio Hollywood Neighborhood Association. I was the chair of the realty of the West Side Coalition. And Casey, what's going on, Casey, is that the process has to speak for itself in terms of integrity. And if bylaws are very important. So you notice the neighborhood that you're gonna talk about the bylaws, and you don't put anything else on the agenda. Just talk about the bylaws and have A and you have B. And if you wanna give A and B out on that meeting, and then next week, you have a chance to research, review, talk it with your neighbors, you come back and then you vote. But the ballots have to be really clear on what is it that you want. And also on your notice, you have to say at 5 o'clock, the balloting or you have to come to register to vote. And then voting will continue and then it's over at 7:30 or whatever you all decide. Or you can make it until the meeting ends, people are able to vote. But the residents gotta know in writing all the different steps, and you're actually educating them on all of this stuff. Because if you don't have, if the process is not, if people don't feel like the process is honest, you're gonna continue to spin and spin and spin, and we're not gonna get anywhere. So
I'm gonna entertain this motion by a show of hands. Let's postpone it till, I do ask to postpone it to September meeting because
Why can't we have a special meeting?
It was like 2 weeks.
Somebody had to make a.
That's what last week happened.
Do it in 3 weeks. Special
Yeah.
meeting.
He amends his motion to be in 2 weeks.
Well, the issue's fresh.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 weeks.
Can I get a second?
Can I get an amen?
All in
Hold on,
favor?
what date are we talking about? Just to clarify, what date are we talking about?
July 16th.
We need a date set.
Yeah, before we vote, can we just clarify what date we're talking about?
2 Thursdays, in 2 Thursdays.
So that's
Gotta
July
give us a nice
16th.
time. July 16th.
And the purpose of the meeting is?
They're gonna rewrite the ballot so that we can all understand them.
Okay, what's the format of the meeting? Are we gonna have a discussion and then vote? Or just
We're voting for Scott's idea?
No, we're not gonna blame
First
the
one,
election or
someone
before.
will vote.
Okay. So the format of the meeting, so is your motion for July 16th?
Yes.
Yes.
July what time?
6 till
With no change.
7.
Okay. And what is to be the?
Well, yeah, you can start the meeting like you did today, 5:30.
No.
Like the signs in the neighborhood say,
And
6
vote at the
o'clock,
next
it's
meeting.
6 o'clock. No, no vote at the end.
July 16th, we'll discuss it and we'll vote on the next monthly meeting.
In September, yes, on September.
Let's work our way around this gentleman over here.
So it sounds like there was some misinformation passed around. I feel like any voters that were discouraged from coming, I feel like they should get some type of formal notifications, like everyone in the neighborhood, that the information that was passed out was false.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Casey. Good job, Casey.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Grace Ballesteros Rodriguez, and my family has been here since 1939. And what I find very amusing of this meeting is, are you Casey, ma'am? You're being addressed by your first and last name, and yet you're turning around and checking everything out and making everything your business except what's being addressed here. So I think that speaks for itself.
Yes.
How much you care about these people.
Please stick to the motion.
The other thing, Joe.
I'll let this lady first, please.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I was born in Niagara in 1957. I was raised in Delaware, and probably half of you know my father, Wimpy Aguilar, Alberto Aguilar, you boys. Okay. So what I can tell you, what I remember growing up in Barrio Hollywood, was it was very beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful memories were made. There was no contention that I see here tonight. I hope and pray that we don't see any further contention anymore. This bickering and arguing, you have to understand the heart of the people. You really do. You can come here and assign yourself a position in this place, but unless you live Barrio Hollywood, there's no way of knowing what we have here. And I just want to say thank you for letting me speak. Actually, I'm running for Congress in 2016.
So just a few things. If we do this other meeting, I'd like to make a suggestion. Because there's probably going to be a large number of people like there are tonight, and well, whatever. And people are gonna want to verify that people are eligible to vote, so we have the ID check and everything. Perhaps the people who are checking the IDs can hand out tickets to people, and then you come into the meeting with your ticket, we have our discussion, and then when it's time to vote, you trade your ticket for a ballot. So that then everybody knows what's yes, what's no, and we've already checked your ID. If you don't have a ticket, you don't get a ballot. So we've kind of streamlined the process in that sense. Because I think this having this happen earlier is helpful. My question though is, if we are going to do this on the 16th,
we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Talk about it.
Well, presumably we would vote that day.
No, we're voting on the next neighborhood meeting.
Oh, really? We wouldn't have a vote on the 16th?
No, we're just going to discuss it for people that don't know, like that young man right there doesn't know.
Well, what if someone shows up on the meeting to vote and they say, well, nobody's discussed it? And then they so, because we've been discussing this for 8 months.
I think we should vote the same thing.
Because we are kind of heading down the same path with somebody else, and I agree with this gentleman over here, is that we've had multiple meetings where we've discussed.
Yeah, but it's getting bigger. Look at all these people that I've never seen before.
Let me explain. I've been involved in the process all along. I've been to every single one of these meetings, except for one at Ward 1. The gentleman's correct. We're getting into a pattern where we have a discussion, and then when a vote's called, as it was tonight, then we get a huge turnout. And then we get 20, 30 people in rooms that I don't know what we're voting about. And then we wind up in the same cycle again, more discussion, and then we just keep on kicking the can.
But that's how you make it clear in the ballot, like many people have mentioned.
And I agree.
Each vote means, and just be clear about it.
And I agree, and that should be done at one meeting. We should have a discussion. I believe that the ballot, I'm offering my opinion as chair, I apologize, is that the ballot contains, as Ms. Cruz did suggest, we identify briefly each article change and move on from there. And I think it should be, here's proposition 1, yes or no, proposition 2, yes or no, and that's it. But I do agree that if we keep on saying we're going to have another meeting discussion, what will happen then is that we wind up with 10 people in the room, and we say, oh, we're going to have a vote in a month, and then what what happens is that then we get 50 people in the room, and then we wind up in exactly the same predicament we are here tonight.
Okay, Joe.
I just have a question.
You have to have a vote when a discussion.
Joe agreed.
Yes.
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
agree.
Wait, Mr. Mungana, you okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, if we're gonna discuss this and we're gonna get people to come, okay, there's two things that I would want to very clearly put out there, okay? Ms. Carlton continues to say that our meetings are contentious and the whole bit, okay? But yet, a lot of people, because they don't have computers here, fail to see what she posted on Facebook in discrediting me and Scott. It's not about me and Scott. It is about the bylaws, and we would like to stick to this because Casey,
Let her finish.
let me finish. Because Casey, you keep on, because throughout all of this, I have been quiet and I've been listening and whatever. No, but you personally attack me and I'll see you in court, bitch.
Margaret, order.
I have one comment. Just, can you send an agenda out, and not on the computer, but not everyone, I do have one, but not everyone does. Can you send some flyers with an agenda?
So, and that poses a problem. Let me address this. Go ahead. That poses a problem is because to do a mailing for all of Barrio Hollywood, I believe runs $400 to $500.
I'll pick up the tab.
Can the private individual pay for mailing?
Okay, Joe, and I want it bilingual. Joe, can we make copies and put them at the center and have people, hey, pick them up?
I support any way that we can most effectively get the word out.
You know, it might be cheaper than $400.
The concern we have with Barrio Hollywood is there are 1,000 home residents.
Walgreens, let's put some at Walgreens.
However, then, let's talk this through. One of the problems we have is we have 1,000 residences, and in the middle of July, it's very, very taxing on getting people out there, and some of us do have jobs and stuff, to go out there and hand out flyers. But I'm for whatever way you guys can dream up of getting the flyers out there, I'm happy with it. But I do not know how we as a body can make a decision.
I'll throw some out, I'll go door to door.
I'll go door to door.
Walgreens will help us out, I'm sure Pat Shilly
Maybe someone would like to.
Yeah, right.
Maybe somebody would like to volunteer to organize a team of people to do the whole neighborhood.
As Mr. Green has suggested, we probably will need someone to organize.
Do that?
Yes. Like I said, I'll pay for the paperwork. I'll make sure it gets delivered. We'll make it bilingual. A lot of people are illiterate. Computers are senior citizens.
Well, let me point out something before you make that offer.
Oh, I don't mind making the offer.
Okay, because the bigger the flyer gets, the more expensive.
Oh, come on.
I'm just
Spanish has been spoken here in this city way before English, sir.
That's not my point.
And in this barrio, way before you and your partner got here. Decades before.
I am just trying to be honest with the gentleman.
Okay, do we agree on this? We'll send flyers, I'll pay for it.
Thank you.
Okay? Bilingual. Then we also have a lot of Hispanics that are illiterate on the internet, computers and all. So that is a issue that we have to address and explain to the individuals that, you know, this is what's going on. She has made her space and it's on the internet, but hasn't been directly contacted with every individual, correct?
Right.
And that is.
And that's what we're changing. Do we agree?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have your support?
However, let's entertain that separate from holding this next meeting, okay?
Joe,
Now,
one more thing, Joe. Can we make
I'm right in front of you.
a flyer for the people that are handicapped that can't come?
There's people that are not members that's spoken.
Yes.
Miguel.
We want her to speak.
My kids' grandparents, great-grandparents were from Barrio Hollywood. That's right.
Go ahead and speak.
What I'd like to say to the chair, to the co-chair, is that there's an obvious narrative that's unfolding here, and it's a disenfranchising of residents of Barrio Hollywood, one of the oldest neighborhoods here in Tucson. And that narrative is silencing of people. It's just not going to fly. And the way that you conducted yourself and the way you've informed people and the manipulation of the process letting outsiders know to come to vote earlier, and you too manipulating this and having this outcome here, this narrative is just not going to fly. Now the media is going to get attention. You're going to get the attention of the media, and so when we meet later, it's just going to get worse and worse. Outsiders don't have a say in Barrio Hollywood. I shouldn't have a say, but I could get a business license and become a business owner here in Barrio Hollywood and vote to say that I don't have a say. It's ridiculous. So what I'm telling you is that what you really ought to do is just resign. You really should resign.
Yes.
And
That sounds like a threat.
And Mr. Ortega, and you are, as you pointed out, you are not a member, and I did let you speak, okay? Okay, now, does anyone have anything else they would like to say regarding the motion on the floor?
Yes.
My name.
Ms. Purnell.
Go ahead.
Pernella Jones, and I've lived in this neighborhood 35 years, something like that. On the motion to postpone, I will speak in favor of that because of what happened tonight. What I'm not clear on is if we had the information here, we could discuss it here, but that's not possible. But I want to see if it's going to be okay to discuss it and vote on it at the next meeting, because I agree that it should not go on interminably. It'll be just crazy to keep doing that. The whole issue is the lack of information that people don't have here tonight. Before the next meeting and at the next meeting, we should have copies of the bylaw proposals, because it's not just a few strikeouts and a few changes. It's a massive overhaul to the whole bylaw, and I think people need to see what that looks like before they vote on it.
Very well.
Notice requirement.
To the same point.
Okay, and I want to address it. I want to ask Manny. So let's be clear about your motion. So your motion is that you say on July 16th at 6 p.m., 2 weeks from today, we're going to have a discussion and revote, or just discussion?
Discussion and vote.
Okay, great. Great.
Okay, is there any other discussion before I call it up?
Yeah, I just have a question on the motion. My question is, okay, so tonight, it was confined to 3 votes, you know? Keep the old bylaws as they are, change the bylaws so it's only residents, or change the bylaws so it's business and property owners and anybody that has a connection here. My problem is this, and I'm not raising this as a new problem, but it is a problem for me. The new bylaws that are being proposed, the new ones, there's a lot of crap in them. I mean, there's, for example, just as one example, our old bylaws, which I recognize need to be changed, they're messy and they need to be cleaned up. But in the old bylaws, for example, if we wanted to get rid of, if the members of Barrio Hollywood wanted to replace the president, it's a simple majority vote. That's how a president is elected, by a simple majority vote. The way the old bylaws say, if we want to unelect her, we have a simple majority vote. The new bylaws that you and Casey put together said you need a 3/4 vote to get rid, or 2/3 vote to get rid of. I have a problem with that.
Right.
And I have a problem with some other things. That's one of them.
And then let me address that, because we did start the bylaw discussion a year ago. And that came out of the discussions we had with other people in the room. And that is one of the issues we've had with these bylaws, is that we've had multiple discussions with a changing cast of players. Let me put it that way. We'll have one meeting, this group of people will show up, this is their suggestion. Okay. And we said, this is what we discussed at the last meeting. Okay, a different group of people said, oh, we don't like that, we don't like that, they change things. And that's how it snowballed.
I can see that's a problem.
And that's where we ended up.
Couldn't we take it in pieces rather than vote whole, or couldn't we have a discussion of the bylaws and say, you know, I'd like to change this and that and the other thing. By section.
But Joe,
We've had those discussions.
But
We've
Joe,
sent out meetings.
Yeah, but 3/4 of these people have not had that discussion.
I understood.
In one of the meetings, when he did suggest some changes, Casey said, since Scott isn't here, we're not even addressing any of his requests for changes. Why? There were other people there that would have wanted to discuss the changes that Scott wanted, okay? So, you see, it's arbitrarily whatever you and Casey decide that you want placed in there and what's going to be addressed. And that's the transparency that we're looking at. Because you are dismissing us.
I'm sorry to have to disagree with you, Margaret, but I have attended the meeting. I have openly participated in the discussions. Invites have gone out. They have been announced at all the monthly meetings. It really, and then just as the monthly meetings are, it really depends upon who shows up. I have not been trying to game it or anything like that. I've gone to discussions, you and I have to have discussions. We've had disagreements, we've had agreements. And then the next meeting comes around, you don't show up, another person shows up.
Because I get personally attacked by her in every meeting.
And this is the process that we have to work with. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for it, but really the problem we have in Barrio Hollywood is a lot of apathy. And I'm not pointing fingers. I come to the meetings, I do my bit, and I participate. And the problem we run into is that we start out with 5 or 6 people, and then we wind up with a room with 60 people, and then we say, we didn't have that discussion. And I apologize, but really it is incumbent upon people to stay involved. But we do have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor.
Notice, and a lot of these people that came in have never received a notice from Ms. Carlton. It was because we asked them and we went door to door and told them, look, there's some changes. You see, that's not
Allow me
transparency
to address
either.
that. Allow me to address that, Margaret. I was your secretary when you were president, and you remember when the city cut off funding.
But we sent a whole notice that showed every single meeting for the year. And
Yeah,
I
we did
know
that.
a lot of
We did
people
that,
that
Margaret.
still kept them in the refrigerator and knew what the
And we
meetings were.
have done
And
that.
it was noticed, but Ms. Carlton hasn't done that.
Yes, we have. We wrote a newsletter last year.
Last year.
Okay.
Okay.
We give 1 million a year. Now, please, let's not take this off on tangents. Okay? You're the last one before I call the motion. The vote. Oh, him.
Yeah, he's before me.
Okay, real quick.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think Scott made a good point about how the vote would happen. Like, if you got 3 items on the agenda, on the ballot, what if, the vote is split? The proper way to do it in most organizations is, our current bylaws are the baseline. And when you wanna change something in it, you propose an amendment and you vote on each amendment
Yes.
as an individual item.
Yes.
You don't do, and if you want your amendment to be a complete rewrite, I suppose you could do that, but you can't, you have to give that rewrite a yes or no vote, and then the second rewrite a yes or no vote. And you can't combine it into choose A or B. It has to be yes on A or no on A, and then yes on B, no on B.
Okay, and maybe that's something that needs to be discussed in a special meeting.
No, because the ballots are gonna need to be prepared for that meeting. So.
And there we run into the problem of his motion. His motion says that we will have a discussion and a vote at that meeting.
Okay, well then the vote.
We will not have ballots at that meeting.
Well, then we will,
Because
okay,
we
well,
will
then,
not-
can I suggest that? I'm a member of another organization where we have a bunch of little pieces of paper that just, like pads that say yes and no, and we have them in different colors. So when we have a vote, we choose like the orange pad and we say, the orange ballots are for this vote. Okay, fine, and then the next time you have a vote, you pull out the blue ones or whatever. So it's real easy, and you say, like, for this vote, yes means this, no means that, and it's not that hard. We can have 2 sets of ballots if you want, and do it, and you don't have, the ballot itself doesn't have, the ballot itself may not have to.
So the motion is this again. Let's reiterate the motion because we've had a little bit of a meandering discussion. Let's reiterate the motion real quick for Mandy's sake. So, July 16th, 6 p.m. discussion and still a revote? Yes. Or just discussion? Okay.
Yes, but I think we should discuss how the ballot should be written.
Good point.
Before you actually print them, so we don't have this problem again.
So we have 3 issues right now. We have the day of the vote, we have a discussion, and then we have the revote, so let's discuss. The process.
So Joe, do my first motion to have the discussion on the 16th, and because it is getting out of hand, then vote on September. That way we can come and discuss and we can do the colors.
No, we want
Vote
to
the same night.
Same night.
Same night.
Let's
We're gonna finish it.
Okay, and.
Who's gonna write the ballot?
That's the question.
Well, that's what we're getting to. That's, I'm really trying my best to try to make sure we tie this all up into a nice little package. So we're not doing this again in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years from now. Okay, so we're gonna have a discussion and revote. Mr. Reed.
The procedural thing, based on what he was saying, would we be able to do a ballot? The only part that really has 3 possibilities is the one on membership. All the other portions are basically yes or keep them the same. And so I'm wondering if each section of the bylaws amendments can be what's on the ballot. Section 1, yes or no, section 2, etc. And I think
and I agree with what he suggested. We have multicolored things, and we'll go down the line. And I'm not saying I'm necessarily.
Make sure everybody's clear on what you're voting.
And then we'll say on Article 3, this is the proposed language. Vote yes or no. And you pass out, you go around the room, pass out your little flash.
I like that idea.
People
We
write
have
yes or
3
no.
things, but there's 10 sections to the
And
bylaws.
I get to issue 4 for the special meeting. Issue 4 for the special meeting on this. If your intent is to have a discussion and a revote on multiple amendments, you may want to expect to be here until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever. So.
I suggest that the 2 people that are doing these suggestions, like Scott and what's her name over there, that they both be up there, and as people have questions, Scott can explain his position, she can explain her position, and then that will.
So Margaret, so let me ask you, let me try to rephrase it. So you're saying that what the discussion and the revote will be on, what is currently being proposed, or are we going to open the discussion up from point A?
No, proposals that are being did.
Okay.
Yeah, that should just be read.
Right.
Okay, so that's issue 5. What is going to be the nature of the discussion? Is it going to be what is currently proposed, or are we going to open up the entire bylaws again?
No. Like this young man just wants to know,
yes or no,
hey, what does this mean, or what does that mean? Something that will clarify to them, yes, this word would put it this way, or this phrase would put it another way. It's not a discussion. We've all, I think, in this room are intelligent enough to say, yes, there's 2 things out there. We don't have to rebuild the whole thing.
So the nature of the
We just need
discussion.
it explained so that we can do a knowledgeable vote.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. So you're saying that the agenda for the discussion and the revote are the articles that, as they are currently amended as of tonight. So basically, what will happen is that, and someone correct me if they think I have this wrong. So what will happen is that the articles, as they are currently published for the new amendment, is that each one of those will be addressed in turn as they are currently written, and then we'll have a yes or no vote. Therefore, that they cannot further be amended at the special meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or is there anyone here who would want to reopen them for discussion? I mean, let's just be honest about it. There may be more than just 2 options, Yes, sir.
No. What you have to do is forget the big things that have been printed for tonight, the 2 big proposals. What you need to do is go to the current bylaws, and you need to look at each of the proposals, and you say, this is what I'm changing. I'm changing this section of the current bylaws. Not everything in the current bylaws is being changed in these proposals. So you need to just pick up one at a time. Like this is membership. I'm like, amendment number 1 is to strike this part of the membership paragraph and insert this in its place.
I know,
Okay?
I understand exactly.
And then number 2, and each one is discussed in turn as though it's a separate motion, because they are separate motions.
Yes.
You have a separate vote on each one after they.
I understand that. I understand that. My issue was, I'm addressing Margaret's point. Margaret said it's going to be an either or. my point is this, is it really either or are we actually gonna have a full-blown discussion on every single article?
I think you need to have a full-blown discussion on every single article because A, that's proper procedure, and B, because
I agree with John.
because regardless of how this vote goes down, a lot of people here are really like emotionally invested in the outcome and have a lot on their minds to say, and they need the time to say it. It's going to be a long meeting, but I think it's really important for the day after the meeting that everybody be able to walk out the door feeling like they had a chance to say their piece.
Yes.
With some level of control. You can have like a timer. You can say you can only might be able to say everybody gets to speak once per amendment, and you get 2 minutes or something. But to keep whatever you want to do to keep it like controlled. But then you have the vote and you move on and
Okay. No, I understand because I've been working the whole process. So.
In the big room, we meet in the big room, not this room.
Okay.
Yeah.
My concern is this, is that we're, okay, so how do you guys want to divide up this motion? Shall we just start with, let me throw the question out there. Who's all in favor of having a special meeting on July 16th? Please raise your hand.
Where we vote.
Are we voting?
That's a show of
Take it
hands.
up.
The meeting where we're voting.
Hold on, let's.
Where's your hand, Walgreens?
He's the president.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, let's call it.
What's the count for?
25.
You've already forgotten this.
What I was talking.
Yeah, it's about, do we have a special? Just a special.
32.
35, 36, 34.
37.
38, 38, 89, 40.
42. 43.
44. 45?
Here we
Who
go.
else? 46? Anyone else? that
Yeah, I
knows?
think I put that in.
45? Are there any no's to not having a special meeting?
That would be the people that came early and left. That would be those people.
That would be the owners of Pat's Chili Dogs that came and voted and left and didn't want to face the people here in the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so we will have a special meeting on July 16th for a discussion and revote. Now, the question is this, is that there seems to be a lot of, and just speaking from my experience, I forgive me if you think I'm being impertinent here by saying this, is that I think you guys are not really planning about how much time this is actually going to take. Okay. However, so we
Our
need to
neighborhood's worth it.
That's
so,
right.
So,
Yeah.
I'm just getting that up. So the question is this: what shall be the format of this special meeting?
Does the center close at what time?
To begin with, I think if we have people checking IDs to establish that they're from the neighborhood, it should be really a third-party objective group, not the city of Tucson that tried to affect this vote tonight. Not the city of Tucson that has worked against
Do you have a
us.
solution for
League
it?
of Women Voters would be fine with
Can you
me.
please contact them for us?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
That's
a motion.
all that problem.
League of Women Voters are requested to check.
I second it. Or some other third party.
Okay, so start, we'll take that on to get a third party.
And just to add on to that, I would feel more comfortable if the president and all of us were in this room, or if it was more transparent when the votes were being counted, because tonight when the votes were being counted, I saw the president out at the desk. I'm sorry, I'm not finished. Thank you. So I was very uncomfortable with the fact that people were being told only one person per household, which isn't correct, and also the fact that none of us saw where the ballots went, except for the president was out there at the table when the ballots were being counted. I'm just not comfortable with that.
Let's not.
Joe.
I'm sorry, that makes me uncomfortable.
You take the ballots that we voted today and give them to Officer Pope.
Well, that's how we got this
Okay.
How about that rookie right
Gentlemen, real quickly, because it's already 7:30. Well, look, let me point out, the facility does close at 8 p.m. That's why I'm rushing. I apologize. But we only have about 30 minutes before we're kicked out.
To ease people being uncomfortable, perhaps the box should be in a stated place in the room at all times and never moved. That way it's visible to everyone, perhaps in the front of the room.
Based on what Mr. Green was saying, I think it's going to be all take place in a room. What will happen is that a person will go around saying, okay, on this amendment, here's your little pink one. On this amendment, here's your blue one, and you'll write yes or no.
But could we get that in writing, that it will be in one place?
That's what I'm taking notes of. Now, I do not know, this is getting, we're kind of getting bogged down in procedurals here. So I do not know if you guys want to go into all the minutiae of how we're going to conduct next 2 weeks meeting. But I really don't want to have this discussion again.
Well, I need to coordinate the vote.
So let's think about that. Should we set up a committee, therefore, that shall handle the vote, and therefore decide on
I
the
think the
procedure?
president should be here so that she can hear what everybody's discussing. She
keeps on touching that ballot box over there. Her hands are on it right now.
We already decided
Her hands are in the ballot box right now, look.
Patrick?
No, but the thing is that, Joe, we are speaking procedure here. She should be here listening.
If you guys want to go off on these tangents for the next 30 minutes, by all means, please go off on these tangents.
Here.
I'm trying to move this along. If you guys don't want to move this along, I will just open the floor and let you guys speak to your heart's content. I really want to get, please.
Can I just say something? You know that, I see that we're moving, not, well, my neighborhood, I'm no longer in the neighborhood, but it's still my people, okay? And they're my friends and so forth. And so I think what needs to happen is that I think there needs to be a sincere effort on your part and your part to try to build a trust again, because there's broken trust right now. And I don't see sincerity, and sometimes some of your words are, have a sarcastic connotation to it. Condescending, and it's disrespectful. And I think that people would like to have that respect and to be treated so that's.
Well, I apologize, but I am honestly trying to balance.
Well, there's a motion on the floor, let's get to business.
And we've already had one vote. We've already had one vote.
He has a motion on the floor.
What is your motion?
No, Scotty.
I didn't make a vote.
What was your motion?
A third party.
The third party.
We've already agreed.
Gentlemen who said there's gonna pay for flyers.
Yeah, we need to get his contact information before.
She is across the street from me and you know where I am.
Okay, okay. Now, if you guys want to have a vote on every single little issue tonight, we can do that. So,
Did we make clear we're going to be in the big room?
Yes.
I will try. Like I said, we can open up the minutia to every single, to discussion if you guys want to, but let us try to organize.
Why don't you contact, here's a suggestion. Why don't you contact our Ward 1 City Council person, Regina Romero, and see if she has enough sway with the city of Tucson to let us use the big room.
I'm going to let Mr. McKenna have the floor for the next 30 minutes. Okay? Okay. I'm really trying to work this.
Joe,
Yes.
the big room is not, they have Zumba there on Thursday nights. We tried using it for our last meeting.
So we
It's
can't
not
get together.
available.
We can't get together. Okay. I really love this participation, by the way. This is the biggest crowd I've seen in 15 years. Okay. Okay. Pardon me? No, I'm not. I really am appreciative of this. This is quite fun, actually.
There's a gentleman here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Chuck Peralta, and my mother has lived in Barrio Hollywood for 90 years. And what I like to see is that we're going off course and we're not paying attention to what we need to do here. We should just have one night where we go, have a big meeting, and have a vote. If we cannot have it here, we need to go somewhere else. You being the chair, you being the president, go out there to the community and see if we can use the school or we can use the church or something like that, so that we can service all these people of our community.
Yes.
Or what night is the big room available?
Well,
Friday
we've
night?
already voted. We've already voted on
Monday
Thursday
night?
night.
Tuesday night? When is that room available?
You know what, I really doubt, I could be completely wrong, as I have been before, but I really doubt we're gonna have more people than this in 2 weeks. So I think this room would be, if this room is what we have, look, we fit in here, it's tight, but we're okay. I'm okay with sticking in this room 2 weeks.
Okay.
Otherwise you change it, people get, oh, where's the meeting?
What happens at
Joe, what time is it?
What happens at 8 o'clock? A day when we can get that room, I So want to what's change gonna my happen at the motion next meeting? instead of a 16. If
everyone's talking, are they just gonna stop the meeting? That's what I'm saying.
I've never seen it happen. Let us continue.
I apologize.
I bet that's gonna happen.
I'm not trying to be sarcastic. It's just kind of interesting.
Create suspicion, we don't want to try not to.
Okay, so let's go. Okay, so where are we now? We're going to do a revote. We're going to use this room. We're going to discuss the process at the meeting. We're going to do amendment by amendment, or article by article. Is that it?
Sure. And I think the makers of the proposals should be the ones to introduce their amendments as though they're
Right.
Scott, Casey, anybody else.
Right.
The part of the problem is that not so much that we need a bigger room, is that we're gonna probably run out of time. So we may not get through all of them. We may need to do some of them on the 16th and some of them another time. But yeah, but I think we're kind of getting too detailed here. It's not, doesn't have to be that complicated of a process. As long as we're all like making a good faith effort to work together and like be efficient with it, then that's really what counts.
And on that point, I would
It's not rocket science.
like to point out is that to try to make it as efficient as possible with a big crowd is that you probably will, it will have to be fairly quickly. It will have to be, this is what the current bylaws are. Does anybody have any suggestions will be made, there'll be a very quick discussion. Because again, you can wind up with a 2-hour meeting and you don't really accomplish much. So, with that said, I would suggest that at the meeting in 2 weeks is that, we all come here, hopefully having read the bylaw, so we're not having to explain every single article. Now, because really I do not know how the format will be. Does anyone have any other quick suggestions on how that meeting should be?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Well, two. And what that gentleman said about an apology, I second his motion, and after we're done with the new bylaws, can we have a new election?
The election.
Depends what this.
New bylaws, new election.
Now you're not changing that part of the bylaw. Is anybody proposing an amendment to that part of the bylaw?
Just wishful thinking.
Bylaws, shouldn't we have a new election?
Not if we don't change that part of the bylaw.
I feel that we will probably still be working with the bylaws, based on my experience, by the next election, in January, okay? It's in January. So, Armida, yes?
I would like really to have somebody that's not condescending and
telling people to be quiet, to be kind of like the sergeant in arms, your time is up. And I would suggest that it would be John because he can settle the room down quietly, unlike both of you, because he tells people, okay, this is what we want, can we, and we've been responding very well to him because he's got a very good way of talking to people. It's not condescending, it's not, you need to be quiet, you're out of line, and I really appreciate it.
Have the police remove this individual, that's another example.
To address your point,
Does anybody have a timer that's like,
I'll buy one.
that's big enough that people can see?
so if there's a motion, let me ask Mr. Green, would you volunteer to chair the next meeting?
Please.
To chair the meeting?
Chair?
Just that section.
Okay.
It's that section, it's not sharing, it's just saying, so you have.
It's sort of like the
Well, that's-
women's leagues of
how is that
voters.
different from
You'll be
sharing?
the MC.
It's more efficient, it's more efficient if he's the chair.
Hold on, okay, here's my gavel. Okay, one person at a time, because if
He
you
is working now.
if you want me to do this, then my very first rule is gonna be, nobody speaks until they're called upon. And if you do speak, then you are out of order. And if you are out of order a certain number of times during the meeting, you will be asked to leave.
Is everyone?
And will apply to everybody. So nobody gets interrupted. When you get a chance to call, when you're called on, you get a chance to speak, and that's it. That's what I would do.
By show of
John,
hands.
a chance to speak with the timer.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll figure out the
John, it's sort
time.
of like what the Women's League of Voters do when they're having
It's Robert's
one of
rules.
these things.
Yeah.
The basic
Congress
time
does
that they
it,
keep them out,
the city
that's
probably
it.
does it.
Yes.
Let's practice right now. So I wanted to make sure, to clarify how this will proceed next week. I think it's very important in the next 2 weeks. I imagine that the way that the vote will take place will be in the order of each article as listed in the bylaws. Meaning that the first one would be name and boundaries, and then the very next one would be membership. So my assumption is that membership question will be resolved right away, and once it is resolved, it is effective immediately. Meaning that if the right thing happens, only residents that live in Barrio Hollywood will get to vote, and the folks that don't live in Barrio Hollywood would need to leave the room.
Well, my understanding.
That's as a point of information.
My understanding is that it will take effect at the next regular meeting.
That's your understanding, or is that the actual?
Well, that's how they've been practicing.
That's not binding. So
That
what
is
I would like to
binding.
suggest,
That's not true.
is that it would be effective immediately, and it does go in order.
Well, then a motion at that time could be made. Do we want?
I second
I think maybe that motion can be made now.
Yeah, I second that.
I think it should be made at the time because we do not.
What you think is
We do not know what the amendment changes will be.
want.
We will not know what the amendment changes will
Doesn't
be at that time.
Doesn't matter.
I don't think that way.
Whatever the change is, it's effective immediately.
Yeah.
So is a motion. So is
We
a
have a motion and a
motion.
second on the floor.
So
I can't make a motion, can a member make a motion?
I motion what he said. Can I get a second?
So you're saying as each amendment, as each.
Would you like me to say it again?
I got it. Come on.
Each amendment is effective immediately.
So are you saying therefore as each article is amended, it will take effect immediately
Yeah.
upon the vote?
In addition to that, wait, I'm not done. In addition to that each article is addressed and voted on by the list, by how it's listed. For example, Article 1 is voted on first, and then Article 2, and so on.
Is there a second?
That's the motion that he's making.
That's the motion I'm making.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second and the third.
Well, let's wait till people go down the room.
Then they want to vote, take it to the.
You want me?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All opposed?
There's two opposed.
Okay. Can we
Can you make it
get back
clear
to
that it's not
what he was saying, that if anybody's out of order after certain many times,
Sure.
we all agree?
Wait, can you make clear that that motion
Come on,
passed?
Miguel.
It would be
Yeah, the motion passed.
announced at the beginning, and everybody would know the rules. But the rules won't be like necessarily like debatable. You basically, if you want me to do it, you basically be entrusting me to lay out the rules at the beginning, and everybody will hear them.
Order, please. Order.
But it wouldn't be like a debate over like what the rules are here. Those rules are. Huh? Put it on the agenda. We'll clarify.
So-
clarify the rules? That would be the first thing,
So
yeah.
you're taking
But
the
it
job.
wouldn't be a discussion about the rules, it would be just.
Yeah.
Alright, each person is 2 minutes, and someone else is. Yeah, there'd be, yeah, there'd be ground. Alright.
Okay, where are we? Where are we?
So you're gonna be our MC.
Is that what you guys want?
Yes.
And you're opposed to him being the chair? He's actually gonna be the chair. He's gonna chair.
So if anybody has like some sort of like timer with a large readout that everybody can,
I'll buy you
could be
one.
visible. Well, if somebody has one and we don't have to buy it, that would be nice. So if anybody has one that they'd like to loan, please let me know.
It's all the Washington College.
And then I don't want anybody complaining that somebody didn't get, that the timekeeper like was giving too much time to one side and not enough time to the other. I want it to be up, I want it to be open where everybody can see it.
John, at this point, everybody has your trust, okay, so don't.
It's all good. Show of hands, everybody agrees? Okay.
Can I get a motion to adjourn, now there's no.
I motion that this meeting be adjourned.
Second, Domino's.
Meeting's adjourned.
Meeting's adjourned.